Jesus told them a parable about their need to pray always and not to lose heart. Jesus was talking to the crowds one day. He said, "I got a story that'll blow you away. I know that you're discouraged. I can see you're dismayed, but take heart and take courage and keep trying to pray." He said, in a certain city, there was this certain judge. When people came to him for justice, he did not give a fudge. He didn't respect people, and he didn't care for God. He had the moral conscience of a cephalopod. And then there was this widow who came day and night saying, "Grant me some justice. Just try and do what's right. You know my opponent is just doing me wrong. That's why I keep on coming, singing the same song." Now, a widow at that time didn't have any rights. She had no one to help her to take up her fights. No possessions, no standing in a court of law. Getting help from this judge was the only hope she saw. Finally, our judge stopped and said to himself, "If I keep sticking this case on the back of the shelf, just ignoring her pleas and ignoring her shouts, this widow won't stop. She'll keep wearing me out. So I will grant her justice just to keep her away. Then I'll have some peace and quiet to enjoy my day. Though I don't care about God or the citizenry, and I look at my job hypocritically." Jesus said, "Are you hearing what this slimy judge said? But we have a God of love and justice instead. Will God fail to grant justice? Will God fail to give help? God will hear every cry, every yammer and yelp." So, strange though it seems, I'm tempted to think God's got this. Though it's hard to perceive with our nation on the brink, God's got this. Sometimes hard to believe. When our spirits sink, God's got this. But I invite you to receive what I've come to believe. God's got this. God knows every plea of a nation in need. God loves every person, every color, every creed, every widow or orphan, no matter what they profess, every person who's stressed, every immigrant oppressed, every kid in distress, every life that's a mess, every justice repressed, every need for redress, every desperate request. God's got this. God's got this. I am not a patient person. If I walk through that subway turnstile and I look up and I see the next train is 6 minutes away, I start thinking, what's going on? Is the whole world coming to an end? If I'm waiting at a bus stop and my little phone says the bus is 7 minutes away, I start looking for a cab or maybe a Lyft or an Uber. And I'm not alone. We are not patient people, God knows. And it's not only stuff like that that makes us impatient. Like the widow in our story, we are anxious about the things around us that don't seem right, don't feel right. The things we know are not right. The way new immigrants are being treated, the way people and countries are getting away with murder, the way our politics has devolved into a bizarre mix of strange narratives, outright falsehoods. We're impatient about all of that. God knows. God knows we're impatient. God doesn't have a problem, I don't think, with our insistence, our persistence, our impatience with the things that frustrate us and keep us down and threaten us with despair. I don't think God has a problem with that. I'm pretty sure it's not our impatience God has a problem with. I think God's probably okay with that. I think rather it's sometimes our infernal patience with some things that should drive us crazy, some things that we shouldn't put up with, but we do. And it's because of that that I think we need to take heart, drag ourselves as well as we can out of the different swamps of despair, and keep doing the work, the persistent work of justice and love in what seems to me at this moment to be a pretty unjust and pretty unloving world. Today's gospel story is a parable about a judge who doesn't practice justice, even though you could say that justice is his business, his stock in trade. He's an unjust judge. That should be an oxymoron, of course. An unjust judge should make no sense. It'd be like saying an unholy preacher or an impolitic politician. It should be impossible to be an unjust judge. But obviously that's not the case in our story, is it? The point of the story is that even an unjust judge, a judge that neither fears God nor has any respect for people, a judge that just doesn't care about reputation, has no moral grounding, adheres to no code of professional ethics. Even a judge like that would do what's right if forced to, if badgered enough, for long enough. So here's the real point. Here's what Jesus really wants you to know, and he says it right up front. Don't lose heart. Don't lose heart. Don't lose heart. Don't give up. Because it's true, as Martin King used to insist, drawing on the words of the abolitionist Reverend Theodore Parker, when our days become dreary with low hovering clouds of despair, and when our nights become darker than 1,000 midnights, let us remember that there is a creative force in this universe working to pull down the gigantic mountains of evil. A power that is able to make a way out of no way and transform dark yesterdays into bright tomorrows, Dr. King would say. Let us realize that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. So don't lose heart. Don't give up. I have to admit, there were times this past week when I needed to remember that plea of Jesus. Don't lose heart. Don't stop praying. Sometimes that takes persistence. Sometimes it takes being a persistent pest, like our widow friend. And sometimes it takes making a choice to believe against what may seem like evidence to the contrary, as those low hovering clouds of despair are all around us, keep rolling in, to believe that God's got this, even this. And at this moment in my life, I need to know and to understand the truth behind those three little words. God's got this. So, if you're willing to make that choice, repeat after me. God's got this. God's got this. And if you feel able to bring that to voice, God's got this. If all you can do is quietly whisper, God's got this. Or croak it out in a questioning whimper, God's got this. And if you're tired of being a scoffer, speak out, God's got this. And if it's something I've offered that can help you figure it out, God's got this. If you can get past all the reasons to doubt, say, God's got this. And if you'd be willing Just speak out and shout, God's got this! God's got this! God's got this!